Metallica. With 9 Grammy Awards and 14 nominations, 38 concert tours worldwide, and 11 studio albums that span 4 decades, the Titans of Thrash remain the standard by which all other metal is measured. We begin with a 1984 classic from their second album, For Whom the Bell Tolls, followed by the 1992 tour anthem, Wherever I May Roam. And then, let's turn down the house and light up the stage with the Auburn University Marching Band and their show, Metallica.
Sunday night has arrived once again, and that means it's time for another live recording of the Auburn Experience podcast, the flagship show of everything we do here at E2C Network. 3 major segments coming your way, Auburn potpourri, and 2 major topics. You know we'll be talking about the madness here at episode 117. Let's get into it right now. David Housel described it best. We are living the whole of the Auburn experience. You can quantify it, you can qualify it through a variety of methods, time, people, places, and things. But at its heart and at its core, the Auburn experience is all about Auburn sports, Auburn culture, and Auburn family stuff. An easier way to say it, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. So thank you for joining us in what we're going to do in this particular live stream. As always, I'm your host for episode 117, Kyle Loomis. Alongside me, as always, to talk about the madness, Mr. Austin Scott. What's going on, sir?
War Eagle Kyle, War Eagle to our listeners and viewers. March has been here for about half the month, but now it's officially March. And when you say March Madness, so we got plenty to talk about today. We got plenty that's gone on all over the Auburn experience world. So let's dive into it.
Oh, man, listen, this is the best time of the year, is it not?
Yes.
In terms of sports, we all love our college football, and I think we'll always choose to be on a game day most times out of 10. But if there's anything that comes close to the gloriousness that is a college football game day, it is especially the first 4 days of the March Madness event. The tournament is outstanding. We will talk about it ad nauseum in this episode a lot, probably referred back to it. And I'm going to do my best, Austin, to not divert us from the other things that we've got to talk about, because I'm just so jazzed up and jammed up jelly tight about this bracket. So you're going to have to keep me on track, sir. This is your job.
I'll do my best.
Do your best, because the madness has already infected me, not just the sickness that I had a couple weeks ago and probably still coughing through right now. Let's start off with Auburn potpourri. We will keep away from the basketball side of things for a little bit to start off this evening. But we'll start here. I do want to acknowledge a program that we don't talk about enough, in my opinion, but certainly when we have major accomplishments like this, we want to especially start out the show talking about that. And I want to acknowledge not just the track and field at large program, but the men's track and field program, because they finished 3rd overall in indoor national championship. So just 2 spots away from winning a national title. In outdoor last year, the men came 1 spot away. So consistency seems to be indoor and outdoor the case for the last 2 seasons, essentially. For those of you who don't know, they have an indoor portion and an outdoor portion and a national championship for each. Auburn finishes 3rd. Not just that alone, but we have an individual national champion to go along with that 3rd place finish overall. And that is Jacoby Tharp, who finished 1st, winning the national title, 60-meter hurdle. He is your national champion. That was a great way to kind of get I guess it was the weekend, technically, to get us. It was the weekend. So to get our weekend going on what was already going to be a fun weekend.
Yeah, super cool. Like you mentioned last year, obviously, I think they came 1 point away from winning the national championship last year as a team. But so good to see that success has translated into the following indoor season. Obviously, like you said, we don't talk about it enough, and I don't think a lot of fans are as educated on it as much as other sports. They would be if they listen to Tiger Tracks, RIP. But I think that it's really impressive, especially when you look at this Auburn team had just 6 guys on it, I think, for the indoor this season, and to do so well to be 3rd in the country. It speaks to what Coach Leroy Burrell has done with that program, and continues to build it. And Jacoby Tharp, 60-meter hurdles. I can't do 1 hurdle, much less 60 meters of them. And at the speed that he did it, he's the best in the country. So really impressive.
Absolutely. And just to clarify, it's just the 6 that made it to nationals to represent,
Yes.
win. I know you knew that. I was going to clarify for the listeners out there. There are many more men on the team, but you have to qualify to get there. And if you get enough that qualify and compete and they finish high enough in the scoring, you win the national title.
To just have 6 though and get your team
exactly the point.
In at third is incredibly impressive. That's what
impressive.
I was getting at.
Absolutely impressive and a great point to bring up, put things in perspective for how much this program is improving under Coach Leroy Burwell. So congratulations to Kobe, congratulations to the men, and congratulations to track and field. We're excited to see what you guys do in outdoor. Let's move right along to some other sports of the spring. Let's talk about baseball, man. Now,
how about it?
Traditionally, we're going to spend a whole segment doing these, but because we're smashing so many things in this episode, we got to whittle it down a little bit here. But don't let that take away from the fact of how big and important this is. Auburn baseball opened up SEC play with Vanderbilt. Not only did they take the opening game versus Vanderbilt on Friday evening, had to deal with some weather that the entire Southeast was dealing with, and had their games moved around. They did lose the second game, but today, after a grand slam by the bat of one Cade Ballou, your Tigers take the series from the mighty Vanderbilt Commodores in college baseball, and you know how formidable they are there, to open up with a series win in the SEC. How about that, Austin?
Yeah, pretty impressive. This was one of those series, right? When we did our baseball breakdown, they were like, Auburn needs to steal one of these from the high powers. Vanderbilt's certainly a high power in college baseball, SEC baseball, and they get it done. They win 2 out of 3. Dramatic finish on Sunday in Plainsman, which if it's a Sunday in Plainsman, you're due for some dramatics. So good to see. Really impressive stuff. And Vanderbilt is always a team coached well, performs well, has future pros on it. So a great start to SEC baseball for Butch Thompson and this team. Hope some of y'all decide to hop back on the bandwagon after doubting Coach Thompson, but good to see after this weekend. Do want to give a quick shout out. I ran into the Vanderbilt baseball SID and strength coach on Thursday afternoon. They had just gotten into in from Nashville, and I was coming out of J&M, and they were hightailing it to Toomer's Lemonade, and they were ready to try Toomer's Lemonade for the first time. They said they dropped their bags and were hustling down here because they both played at Vanderbilt, but they never got to taste it while they were here playing. So they were very excited. I hope they enjoyed it. But man, I just love that kind of stuff. Like, take advantage of the college towns you're in. Hope they enjoyed their trip, but hey, we're glad we beat you 2 out of 3 times.
Oh, I was about to say, we gave you a little taste of your own medicine and gave you a taste of the town all at the same time.
Right.
But listen, all good fun. I'm glad they got to experience that. And certainly we enjoyed the win of the series, but we also recognize what it took, who you had to beat to do that. So the respect is there for Vanderbilt, and the respect is there for Coach Thompson, this staff, this team, for, I want to say, overcoming maybe some, I want to say limited expectations, but there probably weren't as strong of expectations for this. You're playing in the SEC after all in baseball, and that's pretty tough. But to get a one at home to start off the year, that's a great kind of stepping stone building block for what you could potentially accomplish the rest of SEC play. You got to have these, especially at home, and Auburn gets the job done. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Great way to start SEC play for Auburn baseball. Now to the other side of things. Just like we talked about, SEC, it's pretty tough. If you didn't, catch up the 14 teams that made the March Madness event, we'll talk about that in a second. Baseball, they're tough. Football is tough. Softball, it's real tough as well. Our softball team is having quite the struggle for SEC play to begin. They have not won a game now, I believe. We are 0-6. That's how we feel.
2 sweeps, right? We came into and Kyle, to our own credit, we talked about this coming out off of non-con, that Auburn had a really good non-conference, played really well, surprised a lot of people. But the SEC is a different animal in most sports, but especially college softball. And they're feeling it a little bit right now. Just trying to figure some things out. The Malvos are still looking for that first SEC win. It'll come. I have very little reason to believe that this team's going to go over. But it'll come. But certainly some things to figure out after getting swept twice to start the conference season.
And they've been in most of these matchups.
Yes.
It's not one of these where you're just getting your tail whipped every time. So, I know it's very frustrating, folks, especially when they had such a great non-conference and beat people they weren't supposed to beat. You're kind of thinking, oh, we're ready. But you have to put things into context sometimes, folks. At one, this is year one, getting the foundation laid. Two, you're in the SEC. And I know it sounds like we're just making a bunch of excuses. Everybody wants to win, but that's just the reality of the situation that we're in. And I go back to, I probably talked about it here on this show or somewhere else. I spoke to someone very well connected with the program, has insights that nobody else would have. And I just asked them and said, what do you think about year one? They said, I think they're going to turn a lot of heads at some points in the season, but we're going to really, I want to say, he didn't want to say struggle, but he said it's the SEC. You can't predict how it's going to go. So it kind of proved to be true. So hold your horses. Don't jump off the bandwagon. Year one, SEC's tough. That first SEC win will come, and we will certainly celebrate that a lot when that happens. But enjoy Auburn softball for all it's worth, because when the going's tough right now, you definitely want to go ahead and jump on the bandwagon and not be one of those bandwagon type of people that jumps on later on down the line. But we'll keep talking about them on the show. To round out potpourri, I want to spend a little time in a segment that I love doing, frankly, and talk about AU in the pros. And we'll actually talk about Auburn in the NFL. Some of this news is pretty old, on the older side of things. At the point we're talking about it, maybe by the time you're watching or listening to this clip, it's happened about a week and a half since then. But there were several contract extensions, trades or signings, or whatever you want to call it, for former Auburn players in the NFL. And some of them are very interesting. So let's spend some time, Austin, talking about a few of those. We're going to talk about 4 guys: Jamien Sherwood, Jarrett Stidham, Carlton Davis, and Darius Slayton. Let's start with Jamien Sherwood, because this is the one that turned my head the most. Do you remember how, I want to say forgotten, but just maybe passed over Jamien Sherwood is a lot when he was here? Like, he was utilized, people respected him, but he just wasn't the guy that people talked about.
Right.
But look at him in the NFL. He has not only been with the Jets for a while now, playing as a linebacker. He was a defensive back for us, but he now has a new 3-year contract, $45 million. Jamien Sherwood. How about this guy just getting to the NFL and finding his place?
Really cool success story. And you hear about these with the NFL of they scout well. The teams that scout well find the diamonds in the rough, and guys who they can get everything out of and end up being stars for their team. We talked about, months ago, Jamien Sherwood was named the team MVP by his fellow teammates for the Jets. So has just had a remarkable impact on that organization. And he gets rewarded for it with a big old contract. He's going to stay in New York. So really cool to see for him, really good for him. And that's definitely a bright spot for Auburn right now in the NFL is Jamien Sherwood and the way he's playing with the Jets.
Yeah, I love seeing these type of stories. You got to love it when someone who maybe didn't get the highlights that he maybe deserved when he was here at Auburn. He was utilized and certainly was a very well-respected member of the team, but is making his way up there. 3 years, $45 million contract with the Jets at the pros, doing great things for himself and representing Auburn oh so well. Let's keep it actually in New York, since, it's the New York Jets. They play somewhere in New York. I forget what it's called, but Darius Slayton, who is part of the New York Giants still. You want to talk about a very similar story on opposite sides of the ball. Darius Slayton certainly was utilized a lot when he was here, maybe not to the degree of others that were around him, but he was definitely that third guy in the wide receiver rotation. And he probably fills that similar role here in New York still, but don't let that dissuade you from thinking about how important he is. He signs a 3-year extension deal worth, if my numbers are correct, $36 million as well. So not one, but 2 guys now, Jamien, who we talked about Sherwood, who we talked about a second ago, but Darius Slayton gets an extension and a significant pay increase. That shows you how valuable he is for the New York Giants.
Yeah, really good comparison by you of a very similar situation, just on the other side of the ball. Darius Slayton, like you said, had his moments and was successful here, but has blossomed in the NFL and with the Giants, who have not been good since he's been there, and has been able to be that role. They're, not to get into the nitty gritty of the NFL, but they're going to go through a quarterback change this offseason. They're going to try and figure out a new offensive set, and they view Darius Slayton as someone that they need to stay, train a young quarterback, develop chemistry with. and he gets rewarded for his time there. So very cool, both instances to see. Really funny, they're both in New York, but pretty neat to see for both those guys, and congratulations to them.
I love, I'm always looking to put Darius in an extra slot on my fantasy team because I know he's just going to come out of nowhere and have an amazing game. He's a reliable wide receiver. He gets the job done, and that's reflected in that 3-year deal worth several more million. So congrats to him. Let's keep it in the realm of extensions. And this one's probably a little bit surprising for folks because of the dynamic with which is on the team he is. We're talking about Jarrett Stidham. He signs another 2-year extension to stay with the Denver Broncos. Why is that significant? Well, he's essentially signing to be the backup behind Bo Nix, who had an incredible first year. So not to in any way dismiss Jarrett's importance to that team and what he's doing in the NFL, but he is essentially, as far as we can tell, signing up to be behind the guy that followed him at Auburn. That's a pretty, at first, Austin, I hated that we had 2 guys that are worthy of getting the shot at starting in the NFL in the same team. But now I kind of love it. They're both in the orange and blue and they're staying together. Clearly the guy doesn't mind playing behind Bo Nix right now. This is a cool story.
Really cool story. And I think it really speaks to the team chemistry they probably have going on there. Zach Wilson was the other quarterback in that room, and I think he ended up going somewhere else, maybe Miami. And so it was important for them to have, a backup quarterback to Bo, and definitely you want stability there. And it's rare to find a guy that's willing to do that also knows you so well. Sean Payton and the Broncos obviously have had Jarrett here for a little while now, and he seems to be, all these guys are competitors, so I'm sure Jarrett wants to play.
Yeah,
but he seems to be content with his role currently of continuing to mentor Bo, continuing to learn, to push each other. And that's pretty rare. So I love, like you said, I love that. I love, we got our 2 Auburn guys. Yes, we share them with Oregon. I know, people, just calm down.
Just calm down. He graduated from Auburn, folks. Come on.
We got 2 guys in orange and blue that wore orange and blue before. So I'm pretty happy about that. Hey, look, if it were me, the backup quarterback job is probably, and get paid, that's probably one of the best gigs you can have, right, in the league, if we're just talking safety and money. So it's pretty valuable. I props to Jarrett. Take it where you can get it.
Jarrett says, man, you take the heat. I'll take the paycheck and be ready to go to shine when my moment happens. And then
I'll wear that warm jacket and hold the iPad for you, man. Just
It's a cool story and certainly a reason for Auburn fans to pay attention to the Denver Broncos this year. To round out our time quickly here, but no less significant, Carlton Davis is certainly a name that has been around in the NFL for quite some time, and Auburn fans know him very well. He is respected as one of the best cornerbacks in the game. With the Buccaneers at one point, went to the Lions, and certainly with some changes they've had there, he's probably looking to make a change. He is now moved over to the Patriots with a new 3-year deal. From what I read, Austin, this sounds like he will go from being the cornerback to essentially a number 2 situation, but what makes a very formidable cornerback room across the board of the Patriots by adding Carlton Davis. And as a lot of people that I read when I was reading their stories, they think that Carlton's going to benefit significantly in this way, where there's a little bit of pressure taken off of him. So he's on the move, but he's still in the NFL making waves.
Well, and like you said, a little bit of pressure off him. That's when he had his best years in Tampa Bay, right? With Jamel Dean, another Auburn guy, was a backfield duo for them in the secondary, and they were both just studs. So good for Carlton, good for the Patriots. I think that's a great fit. All these Auburn guys are in cold places. I mean, it's like they spent some time in the Auburn heat and those August and September homecomings, and they said we're going to go up north for a little while.
Yeah, I probably would run very, very far away if I was them too, after what they had to put up with during their 2-a-days. And I get they have the indoor facility now, but you still go out there in the elements to prepare. And so,
that's right.
Listen, everybody has got to make their choices. There's probably other reasons they decided to go up there. It's just probably who took them. But certainly a really weird correlation to look there. Congrats to Carlton Davis, though, on continuing to be such a mainstay in the NFL and finding a new home. We'll be watching the Patriots as much as I don't like them. But, hey, I'll always follow the Auburn guys. That's your Auburn in the NFL update, and that is Auburn Potpourri for you. Let's move into our first major topic, and frankly, it could be the only major topic. We're going to give you a variety as we're always doing this show, but I'm going to hum a few bars for you.
Just go ahead and set that as your ringtone, people.
I-
It's the time of the year.
I have already gotten the eye rolls times 1,000 from my wife by how much I've been humming this nonstop for the last several hours. We're recording on a Sunday night. The selection show for March Madness happened just 3 hours ago?
3 hours ago, yeah.
3 hours ago. And I've just been jammed up jelly time ever since. Folks, March Madness is so glorious. We're going to talk about it. But first, don't ever say we don't talk about all aspects of it. Let's talk about the SEC tournament very quickly here. Obviously, Auburn does not win it. The Florida Gators do win it, which is probably what a lot of people were expecting based on
picked that. That's what we picked.
We did. We not going to say it. Nobody noticed, but we did pick that, except that we had Auburn in the chair.
That's okay. You didn't need to mention
that. They do get their first victory over Ole Miss in a very hard-fought game with that one. Janai Broome once again shows why he is the national player of the year, no matter what anybody says. Does it in both games, frankly. And then they have to go and face the Tennessee Volunteers, who are just a great defensive team, and they kind of keep it as a low-scoring game, and they lose 70-65. And then, fortunately for the Tennessee Volunteers, they ran to the buzzsaw that is Todd Golden and the Florida Gators right now.
Good.
So anything that you want to break down, just mention to wrap up tournament play for SEC tournament?
I think it's a fair argument and a fair note to point out Auburn's lost 3 of their last 4. I totally understand that. I think that's something that is worth pointing out. I think you also should point out the context of those teams and that all those teams are in the NCAA tournament. They're all 6 seed or higher, I think. I cannot remember where Ole Miss is, but just incredible teams, incredible competition that the SEC has played all year. And still, I don't want to make excuses the whole time, but you look at those, and Bruce Pearl has said enough of his own piece. Texas A&M, you don't have your best defender on the road. That matters. Alabama, you lose at the last second on a buzzer beater. Tennessee, they're an incredible team. It's basically an away game, and free throws. All the free throws are the only thing you can control out of those. And certainly they need to control those. That's something that I'm sure will be harped on. But it's unfortunate. But an extra day of rest isn't bad, and now Auburn knows where they're going.
Yeah, I don't necessarily subscribe to the extra day of rest thing, but I certainly understand why some people value that. I frankly would have much rather us continue to play through some of maybe what people are calling struggles right now and work things out. But obviously, it didn't really work out that way. That I'm a stickler for free throws, and that really is the difference in the game. And most people, when you have 59% in your final game, that made me. It's a miracle that we didn't have to put a warning on the post game broadcast of me vomiting all over the screen, because that is horrendous in my book. But all that to be said, the sky is not falling, folks. For those of you that are saying something's just wrong, folks, it's called March Madness now. You are playing the best of the best, and Auburn just went through a gauntlet at the end of the year. This is what happens when you play good teams consistently. You're going to run into a little bit of a bad stretch from time to time. But thankfully, the great thing about bad stretches is they end, and that's what we're going to believe and hope that's about to take place, because your Auburn Tigers are the #1 overall seed. Not just a #1 seed, folks. Let me stress that for those of you who don't understand that. There are 4 #1 seeds, but there is always a #1 seed who is given the most favorable location of a region, and we'll talk about it. Supposedly, the most favorable matchups to get to the championship game. But your Tigers, for the very first time in program history, another check mark for Bruce Pearl, are the #1 overall seed. Your thoughts, Mr. Scott?
Yeah, I mean, I think some people are a little bit confused on should Auburn be the #1 overall seed right now based on what's happened the last couple weeks. That answer is still yes, because the #1 overall seed is based on your entire body of work. Auburn has stumbled 3 times in the last 4 games. We just got done talking about that. Nobody's denying that. Nobody's saying they don't look like themselves back in early January or mid-February and even early in the beginning of the year. However, this team has to be rewarded for what it did in the non-conference, what it's done the rest of the year. People love to say they lost 3 of their last 4, but they also won 28-29 at one point. So, I think that I don't think Auburn's the best team in the country at this moment. I think Florida is far and away right now leading the country in what they're doing. But that still doesn't change what the body of work shows of who gets the number 1 overall seed. That's how March Madness works.
Yeah.
So I love the number 1 overall seed. I cannot believe it's Auburn, as in just like of what I've witnessed in Auburn basketball during my lifetime. The fact that their name was called very first is very cool.
That's so wild, man. I can't believe that actually happened. You turn on the March Madness selection show coverage, and we're used to Auburn being in it now. And so we're like, okay, we'll come up eventually here. And even if we're a number 1 seed, which or a number 2 seed, whatever, we know we're going to be coming up pretty quickly in some region, but you just don't know when. But just to literally turn it on, here comes the selection show, and our first pick, the number 1 Auburn Tigers.
Crazy.
It's just wild, man. So please, folks, celebrate these wins. These are big milestones. Auburn has never done this before, so celebrate that. Certainly much in front of them. And but it is a huge mile marker for Coach Pearl and his program, what he's built here at Auburn. Now, I want to stress this before we cover this part of the show. We are having a bracket contest that you should be taking part in. I can't tell you this and stress this enough. So many people every year miss out on this because they hesitate and they wait. Our links are out everywhere. If you need the link, just DM me. I'll get it to you. Do not wait. Sign up now. Even if you don't have time to fill out your bracket this very minute, just go ahead and sign up. $50 gift card from Alumni Hall, our prize sponsor for this year. We appreciate them so much for doing that. So go ahead and sign up now. We're also got plenty of content this week that's going to be about that. We're going to do a pick'em show with you, the audience who picks the bracket on Monday night. Again, if you're watching this after the fact, sorry. But we're also going to have post-game shows for as long as Auburn plays. So that's kind of a look at what's coming up. What I want us to focus on here, Austin, is not necessarily the bracket. If we have the whole bracket, if we have some time at the end, we can. But what I want to know from you is what you think about Auburn's path. They are in the South region, which means that they will get to play, in theory, in the Atlanta Sweet 16 and Elite 8, which is very favorable, and I'm planning on being there, hopefully, if I can afford it.
Got to get there.
Got to get there first. So let's talk about it first. Auburn will play the winner of Alabama State and St. Francis. Can we both agree that we are rooting for Alabama State because we love supporting these teams from Alabama? Can we agree on that?
We love supporting teams from in the state, but
you and me are going to have this.
I think it'll be great. Whoever wins, Auburn will be a great 16 seed. Look, it starts to weird me out in tournaments like these where there's like high stakes, and the higher team has all the more to lose. Alabama State's going to want to beat Auburn because they're a 1 seed no matter what. So it's St. Francis, if that's who it ends up being. But Alabama State's right down the road. They're a little bit of, they're the smaller in-state school, a little bit added things. If St. Francis were to beat them, I wouldn't be upset. However, this is a game Auburn should take care of business with. You can get a lot of things worked out against here. 16 seeds have beaten once. We've all seen that in the last 5-10 years now. However, this should be a game Auburn wins and can work some things out. Whoever it might be, we'll find out on, I guess, Tuesday night is when the first 4 starts.
Yes, the first 4 will be on Tuesday and Wednesday night, and Auburn will play this matchup Thursday at 2:50 Eastern time, I believe. Yep. Eastern time. So keep that in mind, folks, for your viewing pleasure in the Lexington Regional. So Alabama State, I'm pulling for you. I'm not scared of you. I want to see you. We'll see what happens with that. So the way we're going to look at this is not necessarily a prediction from us, folks. We're just kind of walking through what could Auburn's path be. And boy, what a round of 32. You got to either take on Creighton or you got to take on Louisville in Lexington. For those of you that need geography, that's just down the road for them. I mean, could they have messed up Auburn even in any more than they did in this region?
No. It definitely, it stinks.
We haven't even got to the bad parts yet, but this is the first bad one.
It looks like there could be a chance they're playing a straight road game in the round of 32 if Louisville were to win. Now, to play devil's advocate here, and the flip side of the coin is Auburn got to play Houston and Birmingham 2 years ago. And so maybe all things come back around, but it's not totally unprecedented. However, it'll be rough. Regardless of who wins that game,
it'll be rough and rough. Matchup. Is that what you're saying?
Rough and rough. There you go. Yep. But maybe we have some rough magic against their rival if it's Louisville. However, I think whoever wins that game is going to be tough. Both those teams were in their conference tournament championships, and both have storied careers or storied programs, and have success. So that's going to be a tough round of 32 matchup for Auburn, no matter who ends up being in it. But certainly would love to not have the road team against us straight from the jump.
Yeah, that'd be nice. So whoever it is, we're going to, again, proceed as we've instructed you guys, assuming Auburn wins, just to talk about the potential path. What that means, if Auburn were to make it to the Sweet 16, they then move into an opportunity to basically have home games based on how easy of travel would be going to Atlanta for Auburn and Auburn fans. Now, this means you have the potential to play some of these teams. Michigan with Trey Donaldson, former Auburn Tiger, who's doing pretty well for them.
Won the Big Ten championship. Yep.
Just won one of the better conferences championship. UC San Diego could be someone. Texas A&M could be there. Their offensive rebound and prowess gave Auburn fits and started this little, what people are calling a slump for Auburn. And then can we go ahead and say it? And I think somebody probably snickered real quick when they were making this. Yale. How we feel about that? That's your potential Sweet 16.
It's a headline and storyline row for Auburn outside of UC San Diego. Maybe there's a connection there somewhere with Auburn, but Michigan, Texas A&M, and Yale all certainly have Auburn connections, whether it be a former player, a former opponent, a former loss. So regardless, if Auburn can get to the Sweet 16, like you said, in Atlanta, that matters. That would be big against all these opponents. But there's certainly storylines to talk about. I like the idea of getting another chance at A&M with Denver, and with a arena with a little more Auburn fans in it. I think that could be a really intriguing matchup. And then also, Yale is hot. Yale won their conference championship today, I think. So some revenge in Atlanta against Yale wouldn't be bad either. But the storylines write themselves, don't they?
And it's not done yet, folks. We
no.
ain't done yet. So let's just assume that we rebound well against Texas A&M, or we don't get Trey Donaldson getting a little comeuppance against his former team, or Yale. Let's just assume Auburn goes to the Elite Eight, still in Atlanta, and Kyle's there having the time of his life. You've got to play these are your potential teams that you could be playing. San Diego State or North Carolina, Ole Miss, Iowa State, Lipscomb, Marquette, New Mexico, or Bryant, or the one thing I tell you folks, every single March Madness bracket is do not count out Tom Izzo. Michigan State. Is it anybody other than Michigan State from that side of the bracket, Austin?
It's March, so it certainly could be. I'm not going to rule out Tom Izzo, certainly at all. I think his team will be in contention all the way. But I mean, look at that group too, though. You look at the storylines or the former matchups. We talked all season. We have talked for months about the non-conference schedule and the conference schedule Auburn played. It ended up being, I think, strength of record or strength of schedule ended up being number 2 overall in the country. They scheduled hard, and based on the tournament and based on the teams that made it in, all those teams ended up being just as good as the final 68 they got here. So, Ole Miss, North Carolina, Iowa State are 3 on that bottom half, and then we go up and count Texas A&M as well. Those are 4 teams in your region you already played this year. That's a quarter of the region. So just crazy to think about that Auburn's schedule has they couldn't be more prepared, right, for this kind of region. But whoever comes out of it, whether it be Michigan State or Iowa State or a Cinderella story somewhere, it's difficult. Certainly is. I think the whole tournament is, but I could definitely see Michigan State and Bruce Pearl and Auburn setting up a Bruce Pearl versus Tom Izzo matchup in Atlanta. Kyle, if you're there, you're probably have a second mortgage on your house.
Yeah, let's not talk about that or let my wife hear about that. I'm trying to be there. But let me ask you this. Do you think it is most likely Auburn and Michigan State in that Elite Eight game in Atlanta?
So Auburn, Michigan State, or the field?
No, in that Elite Eight game to go to the Final Four, is it Auburn versus Michigan State? Are those the 2 that are playing for that? Do you think? I know I'm putting you on the spot. Maybe you're not bracket's not ready yet as of this moment.
I'm going to say no. Okay,
well, a little mystery there.
We'll see.
I am going to predict right now it is Auburn and Michigan State. And I am not so certain that Auburn can get out of this region. But let me put it to you this way.
Kyle loves Tom Izzo. Loves Tom
Let me
Izzo.
no, hold on. Let me just put it this way. If Auburn gets out of this region, they will win the national championship.
Ooh.
That is I'm going with it. If Auburn gets out of this region with what they have to face, storylines, matchup favorability,
Florida's
location,
on that bottom half.
I get it. I hear you. If Auburn gets on a streak and goes through this region, Auburn's winning the national title. You can write it down right now and come back in.
So if Auburn gets to San Antonio, they're coming home with the trophy.
If Auburn gets to San Antonio and gets through this region, they are national champions, in my opinion. I know it's a hot take. You're probably
we're about to be all over the internet. This is about to clips and everywhere.
That's fine. Go ahead and clip it. I don't care.
When your Alabama State Hornets upset us in the first round, this is going to be clipped everywhere.
I want all the smoke. Bring it. Bring me the smoke. I don't care. As my voice cracks still from being sick a little bit. Okay, so there you go. There's Auburn's path. We at least discussed it to the Final Four. I don't think you're ready to give your Final Four at this moment. Are you still thinking?
Oh gosh, no.
Okay, so
I am not ready. I will have it set up, and if we want to go over that next week, I will stick with what I had.
Okay. Real quick, just to round out our conversation, is there anything else you'd like to point out from the bracket that's important for Auburn, or just anything you're interested in talking about in the bracket?
I'm not a person that's an SEC homer. I'm not. I really don't care about if you're an SEC team wins or loses, as long as whoever they win or lose against helps Auburn. I really don't care. But to have 14 teams in it is unbelievable. That is a record. It is truly surprising to me that Auburn came out of that regular season with 3 losses. Is that right? 15-3 and conference champions. That is successful in itself. And I think you have to echo what Bruce Pearl said. No matter what happens here in the postseason, the fact that there are 14 SEC teams in that are all deserving is really impressive. So
yes.
Besides that, I think I could easily see the Final Four of the SEC tournament as the Final Four in San Antonio, and that would make me laugh really hard. But we'll have to see. It's March, so you never know, and I really can't wait for it.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be really fun. There are some regions that feel a little bit easier than others. In fact, there was a metric put out there on the CBS broadcast.
Who has the easiest? I didn't see this.
The easiest 2 were the Midwest and the East, Duke and Florida. By the metrics, let me back that up. The West and the East have the easiest. They were ranked at the lower the number. Let me back up. So how they do it is they do it by the seeding, essentially, and how they fill that out.
Auburn, like 1 through 64.
Essentially, the lower the number, the harder the region in theory. Auburn had a 31. The West had a 36, the East had a 36, and the Midwest had a 33. So
we got the hardest.
And we're the number 1 overall seed, who is supposed to have the easiest path to victory because we've earned it throughout the year.
I got no words.
Yes. So
it is what it is. Doesn't matter. You got to roll the ball out there and play.
And this is why I made the prediction I did. So if Auburn gets through this region, national champions, baby, clip it. I don't care. Bring me the smoke. I'm ready for it.
It's getting clipped everywhere.
I'm ready for the smoke. Okay. We'll leave it there. There'll be some time to talk about what does or doesn't happen next week. And we'll talk about maybe final. Yes. All right. Let's
real quick, Kyle. Wait, real quick, Kyle.
Go ahead.
How sad were you? This is not Auburn related. I understand it, but how sad were you to not see Greg Gumbel when you turned on the selection show?
You had to go there.
Dude, it's sad.
I had forgotten about it, and then they started the broadcast.
Me too.
With that, and I said, I've been so excited for this, and now y'all have made me just so sad about this.
Well, I was glad they acknowledged it. You have to, but it's just that's for our age. That's what I mean. That's all we've known. He's been the guy.
It is sad, very sad. Way to bring the segment down to end the thing.
Of course, yeah. Trying to get away from your bold take there.
Hey, bold takes, man. You got to be bold in March. It's the madness after all, and certainly there seems to be some madness going around on my end. National champions, if they get out of the region, baby, mark it, book it. I don't care. Bring me the smoke. Sharpie, bring me the smoke. I don't care. All right, let's talk about our second major topic this evening. And as of this moment of us doing this recording, I don't believe that there has been an official start date set for Auburn football spring practice, unless, Austin, you can confirm or deny that you know of anything. Okay.
I know nothing.
Coach Hugh
That's
Freeze.
what we need to clip. I know nothing.
I know nothing. Yes. Do not take this advice for your bracket next week. Coach Freeze was asked several weeks back when it would start. He never gave a date, but he said it would be after spring break. Well, spring break is over for Auburn. And so that means it could start at any moment. I don't know if it'll be this week, but I felt like this would be a good opportunity, given what could be transpiring over the next couple of weeks, for us to just do a little bit of a preview of sorts of spring practice. And really the preview is going to centralize around questions. What are the questions that we are all entering with? Some obvious, maybe not obvious. I don't know what Austin's thinking about for Auburn football and their spring practice. So I'm going to go ahead and give us one, Austin, just start off right at the top. You know exactly where I'm going. And for this season, unlike last year, we have a true quarterback question or battle. Now, I say that acknowledging the collective body of Auburn people, or just people who follow college football. Most people are expecting Jackson Arnold to be the starter this year as of this moment. However, no starting quarterback has been named. Coach Freeze has always said that he views depth charts as more of a fluid thing. Do that with what you will. But the reality is this spring you will see Jackson Arnold and Deuce Knight competing for that job. I forget the individual's name that joined us in the fourth spot. He will also be here. Well, actually, I don't think he was on the roster. Ashton Daniels will not be here this spring. He's not on the roster currently, and I think that was the plan all along. But this is pretty much the matchup that most people are going to focus, at least most people are going to focus on. Jackson Arnold versus Deuce Knight. Your thoughts, or is this even a question to you, Austin?
Tanner Bailey is that fourth spot.
I
came
knew
out
it.
of Auburn, I guess retirement, you could say, to come back to college football. Lifelong Auburn fan. Anyway.
And not dismissing him, but I'm just saying,
No.
I don't even think he is listed on the roster at this moment, the last time I checked it. So it's these two for sure, because they're here, and we know that for a fact right now.
Correct. Yeah, no, I mean, I think I'm in agreement with the mass that it's probably Jackson Arnold. I think that's when you look at the way transfer portal and transfer quarterbacks work, when you bring in a guy like that and a guy of that caliber, you don't give anything free-handedly away, but it's kind of assumed he's got the upper leg until we step on the field, right? And then we see what happens. So I think that's fair. I think that's probably what the game plan is as we start spring practice. Now, look, injuries happen. Guys outperform. Deuce Knight could come in and be the next stud true freshman quarterback in college football landscape. So we'll have to see. But I mean, I think it's probably safe to assume right now that Jackson Arnold is your QB1 per se to start spring camp, but it's certainly going to give the coaches a chance to see Deuce Knight up close and personal, see Jackson Arnold up close and personal. A lot of people believe this offense is what can kind of totally unlock his potential. Had bright spots at Oklahoma, obviously a highly recruited kid coming out of high school. So they'll get to see all that kind of for the first time when you strap the pads on, shells on, shorts, whatever you want to do, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. I think obviously most people are walking into this thing with a preconceived notion about the quarterback battle, and it's not necessarily inherently wrong to do that. I always like to give the benefit of the doubt, because I'm not dismissing anybody from this race, but the logic would tell you we're looking at a 2-horse race at this point. The reality is we'll just get to see. People are excited about Deuce Knight. People are excited about Jackson Arnold. Who's the best fit for Auburn this current year? We'll find out, and we'll find out if maybe we're talking about another true freshman quarterback starting off, which would be a pretty wild story to kick off the college football year, with enough cool storylines to go around with. We've already talked about the change of time and date for Baylor and Auburn matchup and things like that. But Jackson Arnold looks like the guy at this moment. Do you have another question or storyline or whatever you're thinking about as we go into spring practice?
Yeah, I mean, mine's kind of not as much of a question, but an intrigue thing for me. The first time in a while that they've had both coordinators stay on staff
Yes.
for Auburn, and a little bit of continuity there. I'm interested to see how that goes. I think keeping DJ Durkin, we talked about that a few episodes ago, is a really big move for Auburn. Definitely people that wanted him and has seen the success he's had. To be able to keep him and coming off such a successful year, bringing more guys in, the guys that are still here, understanding what he wants to do a little bit more. How much better can that defense get? I think that'll be really intriguing to see. And then, my only other question is, as similar to quarterback as a personnel issue, is running back. I think you got a lot of possible changes coming there. You don't have Jarquez Hunter, the bell cow, the stud that's been there for a few years now. How will this team kind of use the running back position? Will somebody take over and just assume that role? Will it be born by committee? I'm interested in your thoughts on the running back situation.
Yeah. I was thinking about it here as you were talking about it, so I'm glad you asked. I actually been very not exciting thinking about this. I think it's as simple as it's succession. I think it's Damari's job to lose. I think Jeremiah Cobb moves into the role that Damari held last year, increased time usage, and we continue to see how he's developing as a NCAA running back in all facets, not just a certain skill set. And then you look beyond that, you brought the one in from UConn that looks to be a little bit maybe more of a bruiser type, if I'm not mistaken. And then there's the excitingness of Alvin Henderson and what he accomplished at the high school level. I don't necessarily see him as someone who's going to see a ton of amazing playing time to start this year, but I could be wrong. But I think it's as simple as that, Austin. I think it's just Damari, Jeremiah, kind of the technical 1 and 2 tandem, but either one of them could run out there. But that's the way, if I'm making decisions, it goes. It certainly can change throughout the year. Auburn has no lack of talent, though, at this particular position. So if you're worried, yes, you lost Jarquez, and we all know how important he was to Auburn over these last few years. Probably will go down as one of the more underutilized, underappreciated running backs that Auburn has ever had, alongside, I would say, even Tank Bigsby. But I'm not worried about this room in the slightest. I sound like a broken record here, Austin, but it's really what leads the running game that is always going to be the concern for me more than anything. That's the offensive line. But I'm excited about the running back room.
Yeah, it'll be interesting for me to see. I think, you could go a number of ways too with this. The wide receiver room has been revamped. You still have Cam Coleman and the freshman that did so well last year. You've added a veteran, absolute workhorse in Eric Singleton. I think that's just a big, if we're looking at the overall 30,000 foot view question, which is probably every year in college football these days, how do all the new pieces fit, right? Like, how do you get these guys who are experienced and then these high level freshmen, how do you get them all to fit to get where you want? So we'll have to see. That's the biggest question every year for all these staffs, and how do you keep them as well? But spring practice is where you start learning all that. So it's hard to believe we're already back in spring practice for college football. I mean, it truly is a 365-day sport.
It is. And I'm glad you brought up the wide receivers, because I think that's where a lot of people's focus is right now. Certainly you look at Cam Coleman as ready maybe to take over a lead role in that room in a sense. You are bringing in Eric Singleton from Georgia Tech, and a lot of people are equating that to Keandre Lambert-Smith. Folks, let me just tell you, let the guys get here before we start building them up. Give them some time. Even Cam needed a few games to get going. A lot of other people are asking, will we see Perry Thompson more? We know that we're going to see Malcolm Simmons. But I think that's probably, if you want to talk about a big question, where does Perry Thompson, guys like him, Bryce Kane, that we didn't get to see as much last year, that were highly thought of, highly regarded coming out of high school, how do they factor in to this room where everybody's assuming Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton, and Malcolm Simmons? And then you got like Horatio Fields come in.
Yep.
There's so many aspects of this wide receiver room that are question mark areas about how it gets filled out, things like that I know a lot of people are thinking about. Do you have any questions on the defensive side of the ball, or storylines or things you're paying attention to?
I don't think from like a personnel standpoint or from a specific standpoint. I think people were surprised by the defensive line last year. I think a lot of that looked like it would be a weak spot for Auburn. It wasn't. I don't think it was their brightest spot, but I think they certainly grew. And a new defense and a new kind of scheme help set under DJ Durkin. you mentioned the offensive line. The defensive line is just as important to me. And in this, especially, you have to have those things at least serviceable if you're going to have any success in this league and throughout the whole season. So those are always big questions for me. I think as we get, into spring and hear about maybe who's doing well, who's not, and what kind of who's getting certain reps and who's not, we'll have more to talk about. But it's certainly, there's a lot of questions, but at the same time, like I talked about with the coordinators, it feels like there's a little more continuity, but also kind of clarity going into this offseason. That's certainly a big offseason for Auburn football.
Yeah, and when I was thinking about the defense too, I started trying to write down questions, and there are some. What does the defensive line look like is probably the biggest question there. I think another one you could have is like, who's going to be the leader at linebacker? I think DeMarcus Reddick obviously is an easy name to go to there, but you're losing Eugene Asante, you're losing Austin Keys, you're losing several others that I'm just blanking on their names at this point right now. And then that a lot of times is your quarterbacks to the defense. So I feel less insecure about some of the questions about on the defensive side. And I think that's why I don't have as many clear ones out there other than who's just the guy that's going to step up as the leader this year. I think that's my biggest thing that I wrote down for myself about the defense. A lot of them are related to the offense. And I think that's going to be reflective in a lot of Auburn fans out there. The final one, and probably the biggest battle that we have, special teams. Who's going to be the kicker? We've got 5 kickers, man. I mean, how do you think this is going to shake out?
Yeah, I truthfully, and not because I have anything against other guys, I hope Alex McPherson is able to come back. Just from an off the field standpoint, with all he's had to go through and health issues, I hope he's healthy enough to come back and retake that spot for Auburn. I hope that's someone who can kind of reclaim where he's been from a personal standpoint, but also he was a pretty daggum good kicker for Auburn when he was fully healthy.
Yeah.
So I'd love to have him. I'd love for Towns Magoo to continue to build up his confidence and get ready to maybe take over for Alex. And then who was the
Ian Vachon, and then Gibbs, I think is his last name that just came in. Connor Gibbs. So if you want to look at about a position battle, that's probably what's going on. And frankly, some of that's out of even people's control because Alex can't help a health issue that he's been dealing with. Certainly we've talked about Towns and some of the struggles that he's had in year one being just thrust into that role. But you really do have a 4-way battle, it seems like, maybe even more. I don't know. I've never feel like I've ever talked about a kicker battle in spring, but we might actually get one. It's just wild to think about. And as a former kicker, I'm actually kind of thrilled about this, to be honest with you. So
we'll make sure we come back to you for all your insight and intel into the kicker battle.
I was the only one that was 100% in high school ever. 1 for 1, baby.
Sign him up. He's probably still got college eligibility.
Maybe. My hairline says differently, but I probably got some out there. Anyway, so those are some questions that we have. Love to hear that y'all have. Certainly, we'll be getting more and more updates about the schedule for spring as time goes on. But we wanted to go ahead and get those questions and thought process out there to start off before spring practice gets rolling. That's going to do it for.
Who's going to be a punter, Kyle?
Oh, yes. I was going to try to move past that, and no,
I can't. I had to.
Hudson Cack. That's going to be our punter.
I don't think that's his name, but
that is his name.
He's got some pretty good videos, though. We haven't talked about that. Have you been watching those?
I have been watching those, and he's got a good personality. So it's we'll certainly see a lot more of Hudson.
Seems like a good guy.
He does, and we're going to move on before moments happen again, like they did in previous episodes. Episode 117 of the Auburn Experience podcast. We appreciate you guys watching live, on the replay, listening, however you got here, whenever you got here. If you want to keep up with us, please do so. You can find me on X at Kyle Loomis 24. Where can they find you?
Yeah, on X, on Instagram at Austin G. Scott. We already plugged it once. Make sure you join our bracket challenge. There's plenty of bracket challenges out there, but we'd love to have you on ours. And hey, you could win some sweet swag from Alumni Hall.
You could $50 e-gift card coming your way. And remember, not just we are an Auburn focus group, but if you want to invite people that aren't Auburn people, they can use an Alumni Hall affiliate of a different team and things like that. That's why part of the reason we love partnering with them, because the variety, but certainly what they do for Auburn as well is much appreciated. So we're excited for March Madness. You should be too. We're excited for spring practice, and we're excited to come back to you in episode 118 coming up very, very soon. Until then, War Eagle.
War Eagle.
All right, folks, that's going to be episode 117. Before y'all try to make Austin misbehave any further.
Yeah, I got some people in the chat. There's some shenanigans.
You do. I usually try to star some things I want to tackle in the Q&A part of the show.
Some shenanigans in here.
Do you need to go or do you want to stay?
I'll stay for just a second.
Okay, well then I'll
deal
give
with
you
these little trolls.
I'll go ahead and give you the floor before, and then I'll do my spiel once you need to go. But go ahead.
I'm just making sure because he's been blowing up my phone too, Corey, that Auburn has played Michigan State. They lost by 13 in Anchorage, Alaska in 1989. So stop texting me about how I didn't answer your question.
This Corey right here.
That's right. Yeah, not Corey Benson. Sorry. So that could be interesting. That'd be something different. Like obviously Bruce Pearl and Tom Izzo have not squared off against each other at Auburn and Michigan State.
Sure.
So if that were to happen, that'd be cool. It's always really fun, especially in the tournament when you get those Hall of Fame coach matchups, right?
Yeah.
I think there's a chance like Calipari and Bill Self play first round. There's a chance if whoever wins that game will play Richard or not Richard. That's his son.
I got
Rick Pitino. The second round was St. John's, so that's pretty cool. And then anyway, who else was? Oh yeah, my little brother's in here. So no, he is not my evil twin. He is my younger redheaded brother. I taught him everything he knows. So let's just make sure we told him.
He's got a I want to say prediction, but a take here. Creighton is always a threat in March too, which is why we're so worried about that round of 32 matchup. Creighton or Louisville, who will have the home court advantage essentially. I mean, that it's a murderer's row for Auburn in this region, and why I made my hot take that I did. I'm serious. If Auburn gets out of this region because of things like what Ashton's saying here and other reasons, they will have faced a test nobody else will have at that point.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think even still, knowing that Creighton has such a tough matchup in March, and Ashton's right, that's one that we pulled, or we liked watching Creighton a lot growing up in the tournament with Dougie McDermott and all the guys they've had. Dude, so cool. And so, but even still with all that, I think I'm still pulled for Creighton over Louisville because I do not want that road game in the round of 32. That just does not sound fun. As much as we know how Auburn fans make a difference, I would not like to see a road matchup in the NCAA tournament that early. But man, it's going to be so fun. This time of year is just amazing.
It is going to be fun. All right, final thoughts from you, sir. Unless you just want to keep staying. I don't want to stay.
No, I'll head. I got to get back to work tomorrow to school. Spring break's over. Sad day.
Sad day.
But War Eagle to everybody. Hope everybody enjoys this week. It only comes once a year. It goes by so quick. The whole tournament is so fun. But man, Thursday through Sunday, I mean, there's nothing like it. I got my work set. Kyle, I'll send you a picture.
I'm sharing my stuff too. Yeah,
I might tweet it out too. I got my work set up. I got it's probably my best while I'm at work March Madness setup I've had, and I will. To my bosses who might be listening, I will be very productive and I will have all my work will still happen on time. Okay, I think they're gone, but I've got a really good setup and I'll have to share that. But no matter what, hope everybody enjoys it. Best time of the year, and War Eagle. Hope Auburn makes a long run.
War Eagle, man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, see ya.
All right, you guys are stuck with me for the last little bit here. We still got some comments that I took a little note of that I want to run through here in our last few minutes of the Q&A. We're going over a little bit of time here, but that's fine. You guys had some great commentary tonight, so I want to hit some of that. But let me remind you, this is what we do at towards the end of all of our live streams. Don't run away. Please hang tight through this. Let me give you a rundown of what's coming up this week. So much happening this week, and this is all tentative. It just... it's a crazy week, so bear with it. Things may have to change. But the plan as of this moment right now is first, you need to be signed up for our bracket challenge. If you haven't done so already, please do so. Do not wait. Do not hesitate. If you cannot fill out your bracket completely right now, that's fine. Just go ahead and sign up. It will start sending reminders so that you don't forget. I can't tell you how many people have been so disappointed because they forgot to sign up, first of all, but then fill out their bracket. Go ahead and do it now. Links are everywhere. If you need it, just DM me, DM E2C Network. We will get you there. $50 e-gift card from Alumni Hall. You are going to miss out on this opportunity if you do not do that. But if you want to participate in some content this week, stand by. I got a call from somewhere that I don't need to get. You've got an opportunity tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to start. We're going to do a pick'em show. We're going to go through the entire bracket together in the chat. We are going to work together. I may even call upon a few of you to help me a little bit in the organization as I've done previously, to go through this bracket and try to pick it together. And we will submit a bracket to our challenge that the group picked just to see how well it did, no matter how many shenanigans happen or not. Join us. It's a lot of fun. Even if you can't stay the whole time, it's going to be about 2 hours. It's usually what it is, probably a little longer. Maybe if I can get it, if we're really well behaved, I can get through it quickly. Come join us. Just grab yourself, a soda, something else, sit back and enjoy and join the chat. It's going to be a lot of fun. Auburn Family Night is happening Wednesday at 9 Eastern time, like it's normally been. Calls, questions, comments, join us. We will focus and get ready the night before March Madness officially begins, because the playing games will be happening at that current time. And keep in mind, we have post-game shows for every single game that Auburn will play, win or lose. We will talk about it. Join us for those this week. We got a busy but fun week ahead of us. Okay, let's see what else we got here in our comments and our questions. Anything else you guys would like to discuss, please put that in there. Let's roll through a few of these here. Corey asked earlier, is Tahad hurt? Now, Corey, are you asking, if you're still here, is there a reason you're asking this or something like that? I don't know of anything. It's been a pretty busy day, so I could have missed that, but certainly it's got me a little worried now. He also said spring practice, according to him, starts the 25th. Maybe that got confirmed today and I missed it. I had a feeling it could either go this week or next week, but I wanted us to go ahead and get those conversations out there, those questions that we were thinking about on this week before we got wrapped up in too much March Madness stuff. This is from WT. He says, March Madness is greater than the Super Bowl, college football playoffs combined. There is nothing like it, especially the first week. And I will disagree with you a little bit. I have really enjoyed the playoffs this year, even though some of the games were not that worthwhile. But Thursday and Friday, there's nothing like it. And certainly Saturday and Sunday fall into that. I'm always going to defer to my college football, but this event is so special, so awesome, so amazing. It's so hard to replicate what this tournament does year in and year out. Okay, I'll go back to the regular live chat here in a second, but let me work through a couple of the other things here. Yes, Jacob brought this up earlier. What a great comment. The only thing missing was George Mason to complete the storyline coincidences for Auburn, especially because we talked about it, right? Auburn's got Michigan in their side of the bracket. There's Trey Donaldson sitting right there. We're not even just talking about some of the rematches they could have with some of those teams they played this year. But there's this opportunity, or could have been, if George Mason had made it in. They were very close to winning their conference title and tournament title and being in this March Madness bracket. They're not, unfortunately, and that meant Katie Johnson would be back in the tournament, and who knows, Auburn could have seen them. So sad that didn't happen for him. He certainly had a great year with George Mason, and it would have been nice to see them in the tournament just to get the chance to see Katie Johnson one more time, but I'm happy he had a good season. Let's see here. Last comment, and I'll get back to the live portion. This is about practice. He says, this is Jacob says, the wide receiver room is stacked. Depth is really strong. I would agree with you for the most part. I think there's still some questions there about that I'm not ready to say it's just stacked completely, but certainly it's hard to question that we are clearly entering a new era for Auburn football depth at the wide receiver position. Okay, this is from WT. He said, "Didn't Auburn utilize a peacock in the past?" Now, is this a comment meant as something else? Or are you genuinely asking? Yes. During the Jabari and Walker Kessler years, we were accused of peacocking all the time, and ruffling people's feathers or ruffling our own feathers and showing off too much. And we kind of took that as our moniker. And it was kind of ironic that year is St. Peter's, the Peacocks, had such a great run as well. What a great time that was. Let's see here. Unbeaten Lake says, I understand how Houston fans felt. Why they would have been upset in 2023 having to go play where they had to play versus us and our fans. They came out victorious. Hopefully the storylines will be the same for us if we have to play in Lexington versus Louisville. Jacob says, would be cool to beat to boat race the number 2 ACC team just for the ACC lovers. Maybe an opportunity there. What else we got going on here? Corey says, I don't remember seeing him in the game in the second half. This is about Tahad. I don't know. I don't know. He wasn't having a great game overall. So I think you have to, make the best decisions you can as a coach at times and put people in that are giving you the best opportunity to win. Unbeaten Lake. Different question. How do you think the switch from Under Armour to Nike football occurs for the team? Under Armour in the spring, then the switch in the fall? Well, nothing can take effect Unbeaten Lake till July 1st is the date that the switch happens. So I don't know, maybe you had or just confused or had some information from somewhere else maybe, but nothing happens until July 1st, if I'm understanding your question correctly. No, there's nothing that can happen until that point. They are Under Armour until July 1st. So, yeah, I think you'll see whatever we have left to utilize under that Under Armour contract for the spring practices and summer workouts. And then middle of the summer, there it happens. The swoosh is back, baby. I am going to let WT sit over there and stop in the chat and stop misbehaving. But anyway, there we go. Lots of good questions tonight, guys. And we appreciate you all being here during the show and during the live portion, especially those of you that caught the replay. We appreciate that as well. Always a good time getting to hang out with you all and spend some time talking about some things here. I got a question from AU fan real quick. We'll take says, do you enjoy watching the Final Four team from the past or the team this year more? It's probably this team. Jabari and Walker were just outstanding, but I feel like this team is more complete together. And so I think by that virtue, it makes it a little bit more fun to watch. It's easy to say them right now, but just to give you the best answer I can to that question, I'd say this team over that team. I've seen that asked a lot, and a lot of people have had different takes on that. All right, folks, thanks for hanging out, being here, participating, and being part of our little family within the Auburn family. Bracket contest. Sign up now. Tomorrow night, bracket fill out. Pick 'em, whatever you want to call it. Join us as much as you can, as long as you can tomorrow, starting at 8. Post-game shows, Auburn Family Night. You got it. March Madness is here. We are going to have a great time this week. I'm so excited, and I hope you are too. Until we get a chance to talk to you again, War Eagle.